sind sehr cool. Ich will jetzt die Schildkröten sehen. All right, so last week I focused on logistic regression and I got an AUC of about 0.6845. AUC is area under the curve. Well, this week I focused on decision trees, which is supposed to be a more complex model than logistic regression. So I was expecting better results. But so if you're familiar with these tree diagrams that we use in biology, that we would have plants, animals, they will go a level lower, and then you would have different kind of classes of animals, different kind of classes of plants. That's basically how decision trees work. So your root node will be your all living things. Then under that you have your plants and animals, which are your children nodes directly under the root node, and then you can go further down, having more children nodes and more children nodes. So decision tree is a notoriously greedy algorithm that iteratively goes through your entire data set and looks for the optimal splitting criteria. So once it has gotten your optimal splitting criteria, it splits the root node into children nodes, it goes into each of those children nodes, look for other optimal criteria to split them further on and on and on and on and on until you have all in each node that you have, you only have pure categories. The issue with this is that the issue with this is that it overfits basically. So your training data set which you used to train the model, if you replace that with your test data set, you would not get the same results. You will get very poor results. So that was one of the issues I faced. My results were about 4% lower than last week's um, logistic regression. And then I decided to use other techniques to improve. So the first one was pruning. Pruning, you can imagine pruning like as if you are pruning a tree, basically. So you are going to the lowest children nodes and then you are removing the ones that you don't need, the ones that the model don't need the most. So then we now went into bagging, which is like the big daddy. So you can imagine bagging as if you are dividing your data sets into different bags. So uh, you let's say you want an estimation of about 50 now. You divide your data set into 50 random samples. So you would take 50 random samples from your data set. Then you now train each of these samples on a decision tree. Once you are done with everything, you would look for the average of it. So upon doing bagging, I noticed that my model AUC score improved significantly. It went from about 4% lower, 3% lower to about 0.3% lower than last week. So it was very close, but it still did not pass my baseline. So I'm using logistic regression as my baseline now, since it's a linear model, and I'm going to be dealing with more complex model. So it wasn't good enough, basically. So the decision tree from this week wasn't good enough. But next week, I would be moving on to forest. So if one single tree can get to about 0.3% of my baseline, so hopefully random forest to make it much better.